Press subscribe and press the bell icon for the notification of the updates on our channel.
Thanks a ton, Nilesh, for having me. It's always a pleasure to try and speak to, especially young, passionate sports people who are embarking in this really amazing industry in not just globally but also in India right now. From an NBA's perspective, our brand and the sport, as any other consumer brand does. Think Pepsi, think Starbucks, think any consumer brand which has a global appeal, global aspirational appeal. How would you, if you were the global CEO of Starbucks, how would you build a business in a country like India? Let's say Starbucks didn't exist. The first thing you need people to drink coffee, right? If I actually go to a tea estate in Kannur and say, hey, here's the big global brand Starbucks, and I've got these 300 rupee coffees, that's useless. There's no business, because if you don't drink coffee, it doesn't matter how big a brand you are. So as a business, the way we look at it starts there. The first thing you do is you have to build the category of sport, and you have to build the category of basketball. Our success globally is intrinsically linked with the success of basketball. So whenever we look at any country that we've gone into anywhere in the world, and we've got about 16 offices now outside North America, it's always been that. It's been saying, how do we play an intrinsic part first in building the category of basketball? And once you've done that, or as simultaneously you're doing that, how do you then build our brand with it? And for us, that when we came into India, we set up in India a few years back, that was the main focus in India. Say that basketball as a sport was, on the borderline of a top 10 sport, maybe a 9, 10, 11 kind of ranking. How do we, for us to be able to build the NBA brand, build the relevance of the game, build fan base, and fans is just another sports word for consumers. Every brand has consumers. Sports, we call them fans, but then at the end of the day, how do you build these consumers? How do you get them to consume more? How do you get them to engage with your in consumption? And then obviously, how do you monetize that consumption? That's really the path of the NBA in India, and that's the path of every consumer brand in the country. So keeping in mind in India where we were as a sporting nation 5-6 years ago, and we are still a very young sporting business, and where we expect to be in the next 10 years, our focus as we got into the country was saying, let's first focus on building grassroots, grow the game of basketball. So the way we look at our strategy in India is twofold, it's almost in two pillars. One is grassroots development, which is getting more kids to have great experience playing the game of basketball. We have a program called the Junior NBA program now, which has close to 6.5 million kids in 34 cities across the country. Kids to have a great experience with the game of basketball. We've done a lot of research, not just in India, but across the world, which says that for sports, building fandom, almost 50 to 55% of fans in sport are built before the age of 14. It's the first interaction you have. All of you guys know, obviously cricket is a no-brainer, but if you follow a sport other than cricket, it's very likely that you've had some kind of positive experience with the sport in your school and formative years, and that's how that's carried on. So for us, it was very important. This is a large investment for us. We spend millions and millions of dollars because it's a completely free program. We've distributed close to 30,000 basketballs, coaches. There's a whole lot of things that go with it. So it's a very important part of saying, how do you get kids to have fun playing the game of basketball? The other two parts of grassroots is elite development. And again, that's intrinsically linked into how do you make basketball relevant in this country. Sure. So the elite development is really, so when all these kids pick up and start playing the game of basketball, how do you get, we reach 6.5 million kids. How do you get 20 million kids? When a child is 6 years old and wants to make a decision between a cricket bat, a badminton racket, a tennis racket, and a basketball, how do you make them make that decision? And the idea is you create stars, you create a pathway. So that's why we set up an academy, and we actually set up an academy in Noida, which is by far, if you ever get a chance to go to Noida, you must go and see it. It is the best sports academy in the country. It's got 3 indoor basketball courts. It's linked to a 5-star hotel, so there's proper nutritionists, Olympic-sized swimming pool, badminton court, tennis court. It's a beautiful academy. And the idea behind that is really this, is that how do you give the best young talent in this country a pathway? So it's not just the 24 kids who are in the academy. It's those 10 million kids who are looking at them saying, hey, this is my opportunity to become a professional basketball player. So that's really on the development side, and that's how we believe that it takes more time, but it's a really important part of what we want to do with our brand and the game in this country. The other side is really about making basketball and the NBA relevant and a part of our culture. So we do that through content. We have a television partnership with Sony where we show a lot of our live games. In content also, we do a lot of work in trying to make content more relevant to consumers. So, for example, we started Hindi commentary on games on weekends. We do a lot of short form content to digital and social media. We use influencers, you've heard of a guy called Bhuvan Bam, if you're Kari Manati, these are guys who are extremely strong, large influencers on YouTube and other platforms. We work with them not to plug the NBA, but to give them experiences, good experience with basketball in the NBA, and through their eyes, let their followers and their fans see their experience of the game of basketball. We have players who come down. We obviously have an e-commerce partnership. We've got licensing partnerships. We have a fantasy game that we've launched. We've got marketing partnerships with the likes of Gatorade, SAP, the Reliance Foundation. So it's the business, everything that we do as part of building our business is saying, how do we build a business not for next year, for the year after, for 10 years from now? Again, this is very relevant for all of you here, right? The sports industry right now is in US dollars about 1.8 to $2 billion. It's part of a media and entertainment industry which is about $18 billion. It's projected to grow at between 14 to 16% depending on various. This is going to be, the media industry is going to be a $120 billion industry in 9 years. The sports industry is going to be a $12 billion industry. That growth rate of the sports industry is unparalleled with any industry in the world right now, which is in. So it's just, from our brand, it's something that we believe is a major opportunity with the young and aspirational audiences which are developing in this country. And for you guys, it's just, I think it's a great time to be in an educational field which sets you up for success in this industry.